Welcome to the Efficientpreneur Show with Ahmed Al-Karemli, where you learn how to build and scale your business profitability online with less time, effort, and cost, so you can enjoy a fulfilling lifestyle.
Hi everyone, this is Ahmed Al-Karemli and welcome to Be Efficient TV. The mission of this web TV show is to boost the efficiency of your business and life through tips and tricks from leading experts. And today I have with me Dave Tyler. He is an author of more than 20 books and he's a professional blogger, a movies critic, and strategic marketing consultant. Welcome to the show, Dave.
Hello, and thanks for having me on.
It's a pleasure to have you on Be Efficient TV. How did you start in the technology world?
Oh, well, now we have to go back a ways. I've always been interested in technology, so it was very natural when I finished college to go right into the technology space. I guess I started with tech even earlier than that, probably around 16 or 17, and it's always just held an attraction for me. It's sort of that combination of something that's really fun and really intellectually interesting.
Then you worked as an employee for a couple of companies before starting for startups that we're going to talk about later.
Correct. So I started out, my first job out of college was with Hewlett Packard, and I worked with them for about 5.5 years, mostly in their research labs. And then from that point, really pretty much I did my own thing, did a little tiny couple of stints at different magazines, and as you say, as we'll talk about briefly, set up a couple of different startups, and really I've been running my own business ever since.
Did you struggle doing this transition from employee to entrepreneur?
No, I think it was more of a struggle to be an employee. Because the thing is that I think that there are many people like myself, and it sounds like you also, where you just have ideas and you want to do things. And then you get to a certain point along the way and you say, that's not really working, so let's let that go and start something else. And when you're part of a company, it's really hard to do that because companies have, it's like the supertanker in the harbor. It takes a long time for them to turn. And I enjoyed my time at Hewlett Packard, and I still have, good connections in the company. But at the same time, when I started working for myself, it was much more rewarding. And of course, the risk was much higher, so there was much more at stake, but that made it interesting too.
So take us through the 4 startups. Is it all techie startups, tech startups, and how many failed, how many succeeded, what was the services or the problems that you were solving?
Okay, so the first one, I guess I started big. I was in graduate school at Purdue University, and I was already writing. I've been doing a lot of writing in tech and business for years and years and years. And I wrote an article about how to shop online. And this was before the web. This was really back in the very Stone Age, the dawn of things. And there were just a small number of sites that you could actually go and buy things. And so I put together a list, turned into this article, but I also put the list online. And that grew into my first startup, which was the Internet Mall. And at its heyday, we had about 15 employees, and we had raised $1.5 million in venture capital. And was it a success? Well, we sold it to another company, and that was a very nice transaction. And then there's a period after you sell a company before you can actually sell your stock in the acquiring company. And during that phase, the whole .com thing collapsed. So it was a good experience, and I had a good, the sale went through, and it was very nice on paper. But by the time it came for me to actually sell all my stock and try to cash in, well, let's just say I didn't even get a nice BMW out of the deal. And that's how it goes. I think one of the things you have to learn as an entrepreneur is resilience. Because not everything succeeds, not everything's a home run. So from there, the next startup I did really almost immediately was called iTrack. And that was an online auction tracking service where you would just tell it what you were looking for. And at the time, it wasn't just eBay. There was Yahoo Auctions, Amazon had an auction service, there was Ubid, I think was another one, and it just tracked everything. And it gave you a consolidated report. And that one did well. And what happened with that? That one It was acquired by an incubator, and then they brought me on staff, and then there were a lot of interpersonal problems with the senior team, and I just walked away from it all and let them have my business. Was that a success? I don't know. Again, it was an interesting experience. And most recently, the one that I've been running for quite a long time now is Ask Dave Taylor. And I think this is my 13th or 14th year of that. And that's just an information site, and we'll certainly talk about that as we go along today. But really, it's primarily just me, no venture money, no substantial investment, no offices, no staff, and it just runs along as an online site, and that honestly has been paying for my mortgage, at least, for the last decade.
How that started? Like, do you like answering questions? How the idea started?
This episode is brought to you by the Efficientpreneur Club. The Efficientpreneur Club is a private and affordable one-on-one business coaching club for business owners and entrepreneurs who want to build and scale their business profitability and performance with less time, effort, and cost, and without risking their freedom. So whether you are still figuring out the right business model, strategy, and pricing, or you need help to improve your funnels, ads, sales, and conversion, then the Efficientpreneur Club is for you. Your business challenges are not going to fix themselves unless you fix them today. And the consequences of not addressing that today is your business profitability and performance will not improve, and your relationships and health will continue to be affected. It's no wonder that building and scaling a business becomes so stressful over time, but it doesn't have to be that way. The Efficientpreneur Club will help you take your business to the next level with a private and affordable one-on-one coaching with me personally, tailored to your unique needs. I will help you clarify your direction, set a strategic action plan, and guide you step by step to build and scale your business efficiently. The Efficientpreneur Club will also provide access to an extensive how-to video library, the most highly recommended tools, and a supportive community of like-minded business owners to help you along the way with feedback, encouragement, and advice. The Efficientpreneur Club is the perfect place to be if you want to maximize your profits, minimize your workload, and scale your freedom and efficiency. So check it out at efficientpreneurclub.com and say bye-bye to generic courses, secretive gurus, and expensive mentors.
Right, so that started because I've written a number of technology books, and what would happen is I'd get email from readers. They would think, I just bought this $20 book, therefore we have a lifetime consulting relationship for free, right? Not so much. So I found that I was spending an hour or two every single morning answering questions from readers. And I realized that was time not really super well spent, and particularly when I realized that it was the same dozen questions over and over and over again. So I started out with a lot of canned responses. And then I thought, you know, companies like Apple and Microsoft address this by having a knowledge base. So why can't I have a little tiny knowledge base of my own? So that's basically where Ask Dave Taylor came from. And if you go all the way back 12, 13, 14 years on the site, you'll see a lot of it is me writing about things related to books that I've written. And then over time, it started to really gain traction of its own. And now I just answer tech questions and write about technology, really wide-ranging, all the way from the latest wearables and, beta products, all the way to how do I get Windows XP to work with my latest iPod.
So you have a form that the readers send you questions through the form or by email, and then you answer them via video, or like just personally to them, or you just put them on the blog, or how it works?
Well, usually the way it works is, quite honestly, they send me a question, I read it, and I don't find it interesting, so I ignore it. The reality is that, again, it's still that same transaction, which is free. So what I'm really doing is I'm looking through all the questions people ask for ones that are interesting enough and applicable enough that I can actually turn them into articles on my site. And so some of the articles on my site, I make up the questions because I just want to write about specific things. But a lot of it comes from people sending an email question to me. And I would love to be able to allocate 3, 4, 5 hours a day answering all these questions for free. But the reality is that doesn't actually pay the bills, and I'm a single dad. I got 3 kids. I got to make sure that the money keeps coming in. So
but no one complains. Like you should answer. It's called Ask Dave Taylor. You should answer all the questions, not to pick what you like.
Sure, that sounds wonderful. As soon as I get a really excellent subsidy, then I'm good.
But you write, like example, in the blog post, let's say this is an answer to this guy, the name, and then you put the answer like that?
I don't name people, and a lot of times it's because I've found that because I tend to work a lot with neophytes with technology, some people don't want to be embarrassed to have everyone say, really, you don't even know how to push play on your iPod? But there's, the industry really tends to be oriented around people that are very advanced and that are very excited to spend hours or even days learning new technology. And that leaves a lot of people behind. And those people don't understand when they go to somewhere like, again, the Microsoft Knowledge Base. You go and read all these tech things, and they don't make sense. They're using words and phrases, and they're describing things that the average user has no idea what that is. So really, that's sort of where my sweet spot is, which is trying to understand what are the really basic, simple things that people don't get, and how can I help them do that?
Why do you do reviews like product? I see lots of on the site on YouTube products reviews. Most of your content is that driving lots of traffic, or?
Yeah, I do a lot of reviews. I have a YouTube channel at youtube.com/AskDaveTaylor, and that's almost exclusively product reviews. And I do it. It's just fun. I get a lot of devices. I get a lot of products. I get a lot of things companies want me to look at. And that becomes really sort of self-fulfilling. So, this week I'm driving a brand new 2016 Kia because they want to see what I think of it. And that's a pretty nice deal. It's not like I'm paying for it. Is it paying my electricity bill? No. But on the other hand, I get to drive a new car for a week, so it's fun.
So not only tech stuff, on cars and other stuff as well.
Well, modern cars are all about the technology.
You should be more with Tesla, or these things, which is more into the area of tech.
Yeah, my neighbor this morning said I should be reviewing Lamborghinis, and I'm like, yeah.
What helps you drive more traffic? What are the most techniques that works for you to drive more traffic to the site, and how do you monetize the site? Is it mainly ads or other consulting gigs? Or?
Right, so let me answer those in turn. So my primary traffic generators probably are social media and my own personal appearances. I go to a lot of trade shows, I speak at a lot of events, and when I gain visibility, people then, as we're doing here, people then will say, oh, let's learn more about this person, and then that sort of feeds itself, and then they're on my site, and they're sharing, oh, this is really helpful for my mom, let me send her this link. And primary generation revenue probably is advertising still. I mean, I do a lot of consulting and I do a lot of commercial video for companies. So I actually make videos for companies and charge them money for it. So, one of the other benefits of me doing all those video reviews is it's terrific practice for my commercial projects.
You wrote 20 plus books. If you compare the revenues, royalty, or if you're self-published, the revenue from those books, comparing with the blogging, which one made you more? Or it's it has to go as a package, both works together?
It's hard to separate them out, and books aren't as lucrative as they used to be. I will say that I had years where my books were generating very good revenue and very good sales. I mean, I think my combined book sales are over 200,000 across all of my books. But then there were years that my website was generating huge traffic and huge revenue too. I mean, I had peak months where I had 1.5 million people on my site in 1 month. It's not quite there nowadays, but those months were extraordinarily good for revenue too. And the thing is that I just feel like all the things I do, they all tend to feed each other. It's really sort of the snake eating its own meal. And I think that that's an important part of being an entrepreneur too, is that, one of the benefits you get is you don't have to focus on just one thing. But it's beneficial to make sure that what you're doing, things tend to feed each other or to fit well together in the bigger picture.
Always your strategy is free with the to generate content and then traffic and then ads. You monetize through ads, or sometimes you sell products. But I see mainly your strategy is traffic ads.
Yeah, I have sold products on and off in different times. Some have been directly aimed at like internet marketing, where, how to make money as a blogger. And that wasn't really where my heart was. And so now really I just try to give most of it away and just trust that somewhere along the way, and this is consistently what happens, somewhere along the way, people will say, oh, can I pay you to help me with my company? Because I can see that you're an expert.
So you are with the free strategy that you feel it's more lucrative than. What's the trick for blogging constantly? Like I see you are very consistent, very efficient in blogging. What's your secret for that?
Give up sleep. No, again, this is where having all of these questions and queries coming in every single day is terrific, because literally if I get stuck, I'm going to get an email in the next 30 to 60 minutes of someone asking a question that, even if that question isn't a terrific one, it might spark an idea, and it's like, oh, no, there's something I can write about. And otherwise, like any other writer, like any other blogger, there are some times when I'm writing less than others, and a lot of it is just simply because it's overtaken by the events in my personal life. But all in all, I think that it's a discipline. And, when I hear people say, oh, I have writer's block, I just can't get started, it's like, you just need to sit down and do it. It's a job like any other job, and take the drama out of it, and just sit down and just start pushing it out. In the same way for you, just push the record button and start talking to interesting people and see where it goes.
You run like more than one blog, movies blog and Ask Dave Tyler blog, and the parenting single dad blog, and and I see like very consistent posts and the YouTube channel, which is however linked with Ask Dave Tyler. Like, what's your structure for blogging like through the day? How do you structure that? How many blog posts? What's your target? Do you blog or shoot videos in the morning, in the evening? What's your structure for the day?
I really like that you think I have a structure.
Or at least target, no structure, but target. I have to do 3 per day, or like, yeah.
Right. Well, I aim to have a post every day on Ask Dave Taylor, and quite often I will schedule them in advance. So I might, spend Monday and Tuesday writing that whole week's worth of posts, and now that's all queued up and I don't have to worry about it. In terms of the videos, often it's late mornings when my kids are at school, so my house is more quiet, so I can be more focused. But they're also very used to sitting and doing their homework and listening to me recording on the video and getting halfway and saying, oh, no, that's not right. Let me start over. And otherwise, a lot of it is just sort of as inspiration hits. And, I pay attention. So if it's a couple of a week or longer when I just don't have any posts, then I'll start looking around on the news, and I'll maybe go onto Facebook and stuff and just look for what sparks me, an idea. For example, what celebrity is talking about being a dad, and how can I talk about that story, and things like that. I do think it's important to be reasonably consistent, but I also don't, feel this huge pressure to publish on every site every day. And the movie one's actually a good example. That's davonfilm.com. And if I haven't seen a movie in the last week or two, then there's nothing for me to write about. So there are times when I'll do 2 or 3 in a day, because it's just, I've just been really busy and had the space to really think about some movies. And then there are other times when it just goes passive, and that's okay. That's not my primary job. In a lot of ways, it's really more of a hobby. So I don't feel this huge pressure to make sure that every single movie that's out, I have a review up. Because frankly, I don't see it.
Even you don't have the dates for the post, in order not to put yourself under pressure.
Right.
How about contributors? How do you get contributors to a blog?
The vast majority are people that come to me, and my standard approach is, if I don't know you and we're not already friends and I don't already trust you, I'm not interested in a contribution. Sometimes I'll reach out. So I have a piece that went up on my Go Fatherhood site today from a friend who has an adopted daughter. And he and I had talked about the differences in having adopted children versus having, children that are biologically yours. And he wrote a nice little piece for me, and that's what I published today. And so that was one where I solicited that, but that's fairly unusual, but not incredibly unusual. But the thing is that I just feel like, I've spent a huge amount of effort to build a relationship with my readers. And so what's important to me is to make sure that anything I ever put on my site serves their needs and serves them well. And so a lot of the contributions that I would get from PR companies and such, it's just like, you're selling your stuff, my people aren't even interested in that. So that's not a good match.
How many staff members working with you on all these sites, and what exactly each one of them is doing? I guess most of them are like outsourced or online. Just tell us more about that.
Oh, hundreds. I have a like 30-story building in downtown Denver full of my staff.
Yeah.
Or possibly no one. Now, I have contractors that come in on an as-needed basis. So I have admin people working on the servers. I have someone who helps run the WordPress sites and make sure everything's running smoothly there. I have a graphic designer that I work with on, whatever graphics I might need. In terms of the content generation itself, really the vast majority is just me. And I think that one of the great benefits I have is after having spent so many years writing and writing so much that I don't really need editors or copy editors. I just can write something and publish it and go on to the next project.
Top 3 blogging hacks, like hacks or plugins or tools that you really like for your websites?
I don't really do a whole lot in that sort of thing. What I will say is that I pay attention to spelling and grammar, and a lot of times now that's built in to the web browser that you're using when you're composing things. Or if you want to use, there's some really nice third-party blog composition tools. But I think that being able to express yourself clearly and professionally is really important, whether you're writing about your kid's soccer game or whether you're writing about, a new Tesla and why what the company's doing strategically makes sense to you. I think a lot of people gloss over that part, and they come across poorly because they haven't put in the extra time to really clean things up and have it look the best it can be.
You wrote for many publications like Boulder Daily Camera and Linux Journal. What's the trick to sign a contract with one of the sites, or like news sites, or like blogging sites, or like magazines to be a regular columnist there?
Right. I mean, the first thing to do is to recognize that for the vast majority of publications, you're an unknown quantity. So what I've done in a lot of cases is I've offered them something for free, like an op-ed, which is a sort of opinion piece to the editor, which then they publish. And the idea is I want to demonstrate to them that I know what I'm saying, I have a good voice, and actually I can write well and make their life easy. Because everyone who's running a magazine or a newspaper, their job is to fill all that space. And the less work they have to do, the better. So that's really a lot of what I do. For the local newspaper, the Boulder Daily Camera, I actually just called up the editor one day and I said, I live here in town. This is a small town newspaper, and you're running a tech column from someone in New York. Why don't we sit down and talk about how I can write your tech column instead? And it pays almost nothing. I mean, it's ridiculously small pay because it's a newspaper, but it does get me good visibility, and I find that's a very worthwhile trade-off.
Like, to give the audience like a general idea, how much usually those magazines, newspapers, or online sites pay per piece or per 500 words? Or...
Right. So my 500-word column in the local newspaper is, they just gave me a huge raise, and now I get $75 a column.
All right.
So that's not paying for much more than one dinner. And for the magazines, that's anywhere from 25 to 50 cents a word, and you can do the math there.
But it's more for the credibility, that it's like book publishing, that you can later on do like site sales through your sites or other things. What other advice that you can give to the new bloggers who struggles to, now everyone talks about blogging and they think it's like a very easy journey and they're gonna just make money like that, and how long it takes usually to drive traffic, to build, the visibility? What's your advice for the new bloggers?
Right. So one of the first things I'll say is this is a game, this is a long game. It's about persistence. You're not going to get any meaningful results in the first 60 to 90 days. And I see a lot of people, they get started, they're all excited, and 3 weeks in, they haven't bought that new Mercedes, and they're starting to run out of enthusiasm, and then another month later, they're done, and they're looking for their next opportunity. And this isn't that. And if anyone tells you that they can get you up to a 6-figure blog in 60 days or something, they're lying. That's just not true. That's not how it works. Having said that, I think it's also worth pointing out that every time you start in a particular market segment, there are already other people that are successful there, so see if you can help them. So this is something I do with frequency, is I'll write for other people's sites. I already get a lot of traffic. My sites are already well known, but their sites have different audiences. And if I can write an occasional guest piece for them, and again, we talked about this earlier, it's, the idea that if I'm friends with them, they'll be like, sure, you send me something, I'll publish it. But then I start to gain additional visibility in other communities. And when you're starting, I think that's really important. So I think that it's very beneficial for you to try to make connections. Again, go to things like trade shows if you can. Make connections and then follow up and say, can I write a piece for your site? And all I ask is I get a link back to my site at the end of the article. And a lot of bloggers will be, quite enthused about that because it's basically free content, and then it becomes a win-win. And then instead of you trying to figure out how do I make this amazing blog with huge traffic all by myself, you start to recognize that there's already a world out there and that you can actually tap into all of those people and actually have them learn about you and then come to your site, and hopefully you have good content and they'll want to stick around.
How do you see this formula between books and blogging? You blog a lot. Why don't you think that if you put you produce a book every 2 months and you have a audio version of it, an ebook, it's gonna generate more, let's say, traffic for you, and maybe you can at the same time use it as a blog post? How do you leverage your contents? You started a blog post and then you combine it in a book, or you do the opposite?
If you have enjoyed today's episode, I would like to invite you to check out efficientpreneurclub.com. The Efficientpreneur Club is the right membership for you if you've been working to grow your business for a while now and things aren't happening as fast as you want. If you are tired of generic courses, secretive gurus, and expensive mentors who charge $2,000 to $5,000 a month, then fob you off onto sub-coaches or connect with you in group coaching calls. If you are already stressed out about your business model, sales, productivity, team, and systems. If you are scrambling in the evenings and on the weekends and you never have time for yourself and your family. Those problems are not going to fix themselves unless you fix them today. Why? Because your business profitability and performance are not going to change unless you do, and your relationships and health will continue to be affected. Building and scaling a business becomes so stressful over time, but it doesn't have to be that way. The Efficientpreneur Club is a private and affordable one-on-one business coaching club for business owners and entrepreneurs who want to build and scale their business profitability and performance with less time, effort, and cost, and without risking their freedom. The Efficientpreneur Club will help you take your business to the next level with a private and affordable individual coaching with me personally. I tailor the program to your unique needs. I will help you clarify your direction, set a strategic action plan, and guide you step by step to build and scale your business efficiently. The Efficientpreneur Club will also provide access to an extensive how-to video library, the most highly recommended tools, and a supportive community of like-minded business owners to help you along the way with feedback, encouragement, and advice. The Efficientpreneur Club is the perfect place to be if you want to maximize your profits, minimize your workload, and scale your freedom and efficiency. So check it out at efficientpreneurclub.com and say bye-bye to generic courses, secretive gurus, and expensive mentors.
Yeah, I don't do that very well, to be candid. And yeah, I suppose I could produce a book every 2 or 3 months, but the thing is that who's going to buy it? And how easy is it going to be for you to have new, fresh, and interesting books every 2 or 3 months? You know, versus where it's like, isn't this kind of what you said in your last book? Why did I spend $20 for this? And in terms of audio, again, it's the same sort of thing. If I can keep coming up with new and interesting things, but that's really in a lot of ways what I do with my YouTube channel. You know, by looking at all of these cutting-edge, brand-new products, I really get a chance to produce content, to get really interesting products in-house, and frankly, behind the scenes, to be making really good connections and build relationships with large vendors and major manufacturers.
But don't you think it's more about research? Like as an author, it's about how you research, so you can learn about anything and write about the new things all along the way when you produce books.
To some extent, I mean,
or you just like to write about things that you like.
Well, but the thing is I think it's maybe a little optimistic to think you can pick some completely random topic and then research enough about it in a few weeks that you can write a credible book. Expertise comes from a lot of experience and a lot of years and a lot of doing, not just reading. I mean, I can write a book about how to ski by reading other books about how to ski, but I don't think that's going to be very good compared to someone that's actually a skier. Does that make sense?
Makes sense, but I meant that, like, let's say your expertise is about, it's more about tech and business, so maybe you write about psychology that relates to tech or habits related to tech or like to business, not something like way off. Oh, sorry.
Is that on your end or mine?
Sorry. It's a fire.
Gosh.
Oh, stop now.
Okay, do you have to leave the building?
No, they stopped. Maybe it's a test or something.
Oh, well, if I see
this
you
is the
burst
first
at the
time
flames,
happens in the show.
Yeah. So
anyway, we'll edit that. No problem.
Yeah, ask me that question again. Or let's actually maybe just go on to the next topic. I feel like we're kind of belaboring this one.
Yeah. So when did you start, writing about movies as a movies critic?
Well, I've always been really, really interested in movies. And quite frankly, I was always afraid that if I started to write movie criticism, that I would stop enjoying movies because I'd be so busy looking for the problems. Luckily, that didn't prove to be the case. But what happened was 4 or 5 years ago, I taught a class locally here in Colorado, and one of the people in the class was the editor of the local newspaper. And they came up to me afterwards and said that was really terrific. And then I asked them, hey, where do you get your movie reviews from? And they said, oh, we get them from what's called a wire service, so it wasn't anyone local. And I said, oh, any chance I could write some? And they said, sure, send us some movie reviews. So that was really how I got started. And I've learned as I've gone. I think if I went back and looked at some of my earliest reviews, they probably aren't quite as thoughtful. But I still like movies, and I still go and see a lot of movies.
Me too. What's your top 3 movies?
Top 3 movies. Well, one of my very favorite movies, and it'll be interesting to hear your reaction to this, is Lawrence of Arabia, which I think is just a masterful piece of cinema. I also like 2001: A Space Odyssey. And more recently, I have to say Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol and The Bourne Identity. And let's stick with those 2 for now, are both highly entertaining.
I do rating more. I started doing reviews at the beginning, and then I moved to ratings. I came up with an app that segregate the ratings from IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, plus my rating and Metacritics in one place. So I go to movies and I rate them and I put my rating. But it's really strange how you see how when you are a normal viewer, then as a critic, how you look at different things. And you start comparing this number of rating in your head, comparing with something else, or you focus on the music or the directing and the acting. It's amazing how different. While normal
Right.
people, they just say I like it, I hate it, it's a great movie.
Right. So how about you? It's a couple of your favorite movies.
Braveheart, Interstellar, Rain Man, Shawshank Redemption. There is a movie for Johnny Depp called Blow. I really like it. Recently, Lucy, Interstellar was good, really good.
Yeah, I enjoyed Interstellar a lot. And I also like Skyfall. I think that was a very
James
good
Bond.
action movie. Yeah.
And you blog as well about parenting, and as a single man, single dad. Tell us more about this experience, and however, like, you know, having a divorce and then blogging about this experience and what you are facing with your teenagers, kids. It's sometimes painful, so people blog about something passionate about. How do you feel about that, or it's just about helping others?
Yeah, it's a lot of it is about helping others. So what I like to say is I blog about parenting as opposed to blogging about my experiences as a parent, because quite frankly, a lot of what goes on is too personal for me to put out in public, either because it involves other people in my community and I don't want them to read it and say, hey, that's me. Wait a minute, you shouldn't say that about me on the internet. Or it's more personal about my children or about my ex or my relationships or something. So I try to find that balance. And honestly, it's rather tricky. And so if you actually pay attention to like the publication dates on my site, when you see a gap where there's nothing I'm writing, often it's because there's lots going on, and it's all so personal that I really can't feel like I just don't want to put it out into the public eye, and I just don't have the ability to say, okay, can I put all this aside and just write about something completely unrelated?
What did you learn from your divorce? The most thing that you remember that learned the hard way from your divorce?
I think I learned probably the same thing everyone does, which is that relationships are a lot more work than you think when you're in a relationship.
Do you think like love plus, like, you know, thinking mentally about the relationship before it, is love only enough, or thinking about different stuff in the relationship?
I actually feel like love is dangerous, because I think that particularly through things like movies, a lot of people have this sense that if you can find the right person to be in that relationship with, there's no work involved. It's just going to go great. Every day is going to be wonderful because you love each other, and that's all you need. And it's not all you need. And every relationship I know that's lasted a long time has involved both people working hard on making that the case, and it's also involved periods when it didn't go well. My parents were married for 58 years, and there were times when they really didn't want to talk to each other. But 58 years, that's a long time for them to hold together a relationship.
What's the most difficult thing that you face as a single dad in terms of raising teenagers?
I think the biggest challenge is that because I'm single, I don't have the ability to have someone take over when the things are getting really hard. So if I'm tired or I'm upset or something else is going on that's unrelated to my kids that's got me into a difficult space or a bad mood, then getting into an argument with one of my children, I don't have another parent. I don't have a wife to come up and say, let me take over. You just go and take a walk. You know, so things just have to sort of play out the way they play out. And quite frankly, the first year or two after we were divorced, it was rough going with my kids. And, you know, we're all still trying to figure out how to deal with that. I mean, it's much, much, much better now. And I have very much a working relationship with each of my children. But it's a lot of effort, and they keep changing. That's the biggest challenge with children, is that a 7-year-old is not the same as a 15-year-old. So you have to keep reinventing your relationship with them, because they're generally not aware enough to reinvent their relationship with you.
Through your experience of writing a blog about parenting, and another one about movies, and another one about techie stuff, which one drives more traffic faster at the beginning?
I mean, in terms of starting from scratch?
Yeah.
Maybe the parenting one. In particular, moms tend to be a huge, very close-knit community. So if you're writing about your experiences as a mother, there's a grand, huge community you can tap into. As fathers, we just tend to more identify with our career or our interests, like sports. rather than as being a father, which is, for better or worse, that just seems to be a sort of cross-cultural experience. For me personally, the tech stuff tends to be really good, and I can write an article and get a tremendous amount of traffic within a week or two. But then again, I've also put a lot of effort into getting to this position in the first place.
Back to books, self-publishing or publishing, which one you prefer? And if you have both choices now, which one would you go for?
If I already have an audience, then I would self-publish, because the profit margin's so much higher. I mean, you sell a $20 book and you get $17 of it. On the other hand, from a credibility perspective, going with a major publisher is really great. And it might be a little obsolete compared to the good old days, but I still like the idea of I write a book and then this company will make sure it gets into all the bookstores, and that it's going to be, featured in their catalog, and that it'll be on all the online sites, and that they'll negotiate with Amazon, etc. So it's trade-offs, because no books are going to make you a huge amount of money unless you're tremendously lucky or have written something really fabulous. So then the question becomes, what are you trying to accomplish by writing the book in the first place? And if it's something like driving traffic, then maybe doing 3 small books on Amazon as ebooks, or in the Kindle version or something, might be more effective than working a deal with a Macmillan or a Wiley or someone like that.
So your advice for, let's say, new authors is better to get a major publisher than self-publishing to get the credibility?
I think if you're hoping to get sales, then it's really hard to do it yourself, because no one knows who you are. And no one knows why would I buy your book when for any given topic there's 20, 30, 50, a couple of hundred books on the subject.
How do you structure your books? Like you write the structure at the beginning, table of content, and then you start, or you just write? And
I find actually the most labor-intensive part is the table of contents, because what I want to do is I want to take a really, really big topic and break it down into 10, 15, 20 small pieces that all fit together and are in a logical order. And so far so good, but I really put a lot of effort into making sure that I get everything I want to touch on. And then I will go and honestly, I'll look at other books in that area, and I'll look through their tables of contents and say, oh, I forgot to mention this. Now, where would I put that? Oh, that goes in chapter 6. And then when it's time to actually sit down and write, you know exactly what you need to cover in each chapter, and then the whole book flows much better.
Who's the best editor that you have ever worked with, and how much the range of editors that you paid per word or like as a project?
For everything I've done, where I've had a third-party editor, it's always been someone brought on by the publisher. So honestly, I don't even know the names. Sorry, guys, if you're listening.
How about agents?
I have mostly represented myself. I have worked through an agent, and I found the experience not that fabulous. So, and now, unfortunately, with agents, you tend to be trapped with them. So now I have a relationship with an agent that's doing me no good whatsoever, and they still get their 15% of every royalty check regardless, and they will for the rest of time. And I don't really like that, but that's the contract.
And so next book will be self-published for you?
I don't know. At this point, I have no new books on the horizon, but, if I were to do a book on parenting or something, I would imagine I'd want to go through a major publisher.
Can you take us through your life, like work-life routine, what you do when you wake up in the morning until you sleep?
Much of it is around my children. So this morning, woke up and got my 11-year-old ready, took her to school, and then I came to an office space, and I've just been sitting and doing some writing and catching up on email. And then this afternoon, I have some other writing I need to do. I'll probably go over to a local coffee shop, probably a Starbucks, just to sort of drop the name. And then I pick up my daughter, and then we have dinner and our evening together, and that's my day. And, each day is different. So a day when I have nothing scheduled is very unusual, and often that's when I can relax and go to the gym or go for a walk outside or something. So,
do you feel you are more productive in terms of writing when you write outside or in the house or in a coffee shop?
I like the coffee shop sort of environment, so I find that I'm most productive there. If I'm home, then there's too many distractions. There's a couch, there's the fridge. So being in a coffee shop, you sit, you focus, you work, and then when you're done, you can close your computer and walk away.
Which software or tool makes you more efficient that you use? If you can share with us some of the softwares or tools that you use all the time.
I wish I had a great answer for that. Honestly, the vast majority of my time is spent in Google Chrome. And, when I'm writing, I'm just on the back end of my blog, and I might have other windows open, and I certainly do a lot of screen captures and such, but for the most part, it's really just sitting and writing.
What are your other hobbies?
I have other hobbies. I like reading. I like going to the gym. I'm a big soccer fan, so I watch a lot of soccer matches, British Premier League, and have a big circle of friends. So a lot of what we do is we get together and play fairly complicated board games, and I find a great social time with my friends.
Top 3 mentors.
I don't really have mentors at this point. Along the way, let's say Walter Hewlett. When I left Hewlett-Packard, I ended up working with him directly, and that was really nice. And Bob Metcalf, who I worked with when I was at InfoWorld. And gosh, more recently, maybe my father over the years, but certainly the last 10 years plus, I think I've just been flying solo and hoping that I remembered to close the back door before we took off.
Top 3 apps that you use on your smartphone.
On my smartphone, top apps are iMessage and the Notes app. I like that because it automatically synchronizes with my computer. And probably all the just social networking stuff. So email and Facebook and Google Plus and Pinterest and Twitter and all of those.
Is there any habits that you're trying to develop to stay efficient?
Giving up on sleep.
How do you change your mood when you're depressed?
Go outside and do something different.
The best advice that you have ever received?
Best advice I ever received was probably that the price that you set for your work should be reflective of what you think it's worth. And if you lose some clients or lose some opportunities that way, that's okay. Because otherwise you end up pricing yourself lower and lower and lower, and you end up stuck doing work for less than you think you're worth, and life's too short for that.
What would you advise your younger self if you have the chance to do that?
Run away, change your life. No, just kidding. Keep your sense of humor, might be what I would say.
What's your favorite quote?
I'm sorry, my favorite?
Quote.
Oh, quote. I'm
quote,
sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I really like former President John F. Kennedy's quote, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." And I actually often use a version of that where I talk about marketing online, and I will tell people, don't ask what people will buy from you. Ask what you can do to serve them.
Top 3 favorite books.
Foucault's Pendulum by Umberto Eco is one of my very favorites. And other than that, I've read a zillion books, and lots of them are enjoyable, so I can't pick any other ones out.
What makes you really happy?
Time with my children and time with my friends.
Last question, how people can contact you?
Well, you can certainly dig into my various websites, but I actually have a website that I set up that's just sort of the starting point to find me in social media and Twitter and email and everything. So if you just go to davetayloronline.com, it's an easy way to find your favorite way to try to communicate with me. and hopefully we'll be able to connect.
Thank you so much for your time, Dave. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, and it's been a pleasure. So I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, everyone. Be efficient and stay efficient, and see you soon with another leading expert.
Thanks for watching or listening. It means the world to me if you would leave an honest review of the show on iTunes or any other podcast platform that you are listening through. And big thanks to all the people who have already reviewed the show.
Discover how to build and scale your business profitability and performance with less time, effort, and cost. Check out efficientpreneur.com.